What is up, ladies and gentle nerds? It's your boy Graham, also known as HamHawks42 on the internet. Today we are looking at another Kaldheim spoiler. This is a very special one that just got leaked today. Well, actually, not leaked, sorry. This was officially released from Wizards of the Coast. So let's take a look at it. It's especially fun. I like this one a lot. And yeah, if you're familiar with Mark Rosewater's Blogatog, what he does before a new set comes out, before spoiler season, he sets out like a teaser. And one of the things he teased was that there would be a legendary squirrel. And today we are going to be looking at it. Let's go ahead and take a look. All right, so Toski, Bearer of Secrets, is a legendary squirrel. It is a 1/1 for 3 and a green. So as you can imagine, it's going to have some kind of niceness in the... Niceness? Sure. Some kind of goodness. That's the word I was looking for. I can't believe that was a tough one to come up with. Some kind of goodness in the text box. So let's take a look. This spell can't be countered. That alone right there, love it. That's fantastic. It's indestructible. Holy cow, this squirrel is not taking no guff from anybody. Toski, Bearer of Secrets, attacks each combat if able. Okay, so that's a little bit of a downside. You lose some control and you can't block with it aside from the very first turn, unless you can somehow give it Defender, which could be fun. And then, whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. This is similar to a card called Coastal Piracy, which is a blue enchantment for 4 that does something very similar. There's also been a couple of other variants of it, including Reconnaissance Mission from Ikoria, as well as the Bident of Thassa from Theros. So we've seen this ability before where whenever a creature deals damage to a player, you draw a card. However, it's usually blue. And so the fact that this is now green, it looks kind of like a color pie bend. However, there's a similarity between this and a card called Keeper of Fables, which is a card that was in Throne of Eldraine, where whenever a non-human you control dealt damage to an opponent, you drew a card. So there isn't no precedent whatsoever for green having an effect like this, but for it to be universal, so all of your creatures, whenever they deal damage, that includes Toski, by the way. So this little squirrel, if this squirrel strikes, then you do get to draw a card, which is nice. Now, in general, this card looks like a fun card that can be useful in go-wide aggressive strategies. I wouldn't be surprised if this is a card that you might see in some elf decks or some other... there might be some kind of green go-wide strategy, aside from elves, although we know we're going to see elves in this set. So we're going to see some kind of green go-wide strategy with this that's going to be pretty darn useful. It's not quite as good as something like the Great Henge as far as a green draw engine goes, because very few draw engines are as good as something like the Great Henge. So that's not exactly a fair comparison. But if you do have a lot of creatures, if you're in an aggressive mode and you're going to be attacking a lot anyway, then Toski is going to be tying up a blocker consistently because your opponent is not going to want to let it through and let you draw cards. But it's only a 1/1. So there's kind of this, it's a 1/1 that they can't kill in combat. And so that's the element of Toski that I really appreciate. Also, it is in the showcase frame, as we can see if you're watching on the video feed on YouTube. The Viking-inspired wood ornament, like wood ornament frame, looks absolutely beautiful. And then if we take a look at the traditional or the standard art, we have a green squirrel. Actually, it's not clear if the squirrel's fur is green or if that's an element of the lighting, but it has a long flat or potentially 2 long flat tails. Or no, that looks like 1 long tail that's curled around itself, as a squirrel tail does, so that makes good sense. And then the thing about the squirrel's head that I absolutely adore is it looks like it's wearing like a horned helmet, which is of course appropriate because we're in a Viking set. But beyond that, it has a braided beard, like a big old Viking style braided beard, which if you look closely at the artwork, it's just silly and I love it. You know, and it's done in that hyper realistic Magic the Gathering style. So it doesn't take it, so it seems to be taking itself very seriously. Meanwhile, it's a squirrel in mid-flight with a huge Viking beard. I gotta be honest, I love this. And let's see, does the showcase frame has a beard, but it's a little more unkempt. It's not tied down in braids, which squirrels. Okay, I'm no stranger to squirrels. I live in the Midwest and the United States. We have squirrels everywhere here, and none of them. I mean, it's not uncommon for them to be a little fuzzy, but come on, this is this is kind of ridiculous. And for that, I adore it. On top of that, actually, in the showcase frame, we can see what appear to be either it has special like long claws, or it's wielding some kind of weapon in its hand, which is pretty cool actually. The idea of a legendary squirrel that's capable of using tools, and well, I mean, it's indestructible and it's drawing you cards. So I mean, it's a very powerful little squirrel. It's a little squirrel. It's a little squirrel. I just cannot get over this. We have a legendary warrior squirrel that is a card draw indestructible engine that can't be countered. The fact that it can't be countered leads me to believe that going up against control decks, this is going to be really tough to deal with, because one of the ways that control decks really assert dominance in a game is through card advantage. If a control deck wants to stop you and draw cards. Those are the things that it does. And it needs to draw more cards than you in order to be successful, because it's going to stop you with 1-for-1 interactions. So if it counters every single threat that you have, or kills every single threat that you have, that only helps as long as it has more counters than you have threats. The moment they run out of gas, then all of a sudden your threats can actually win the game, whereas their counters and their kill spells cannot. Toski here allows the aggressive player a draw engine that is incredibly difficult for the control player to deal with. And so all of a sudden, this can put a control player on the back foot if it's successful. And Toski themselves is going to be really tough to deal with. And all on its own, it is a really solid card draw engine, even without any other support. And let's be honest, you're going to have some kind of other creature support, unless you're going up against a control player who is completely destroying your entire board. So I think Toski is a great counter to like traditional Sultai control decks. The one issue that I can see with this, though, the one area that I can see messing with Toski, though, is exile effects, because exile doesn't care about indestructibility. Extinction event still hits Toski as long as they say even, and then you also have Seraph, the Realm Eater, the new wolf that they spoiled. As long as you have 4 counters on that thing, it can blow up Toski just fine. So those are going to be potential issues, and I have a feeling we're going to see control decks running both of those moving forward for the foreseeable future, at least until they rotate out. And obviously Seraph's going to be here for a while, and Extinction Event's going to be here for a little while as well. So I think Toski is an interesting role player who is potentially a sideboard card against control decks. Or potentially, I mean, it's going to be a bomb in limited. Anything that allows you to draw a card. I mean, looking back at Ikoria, Thieving Otter, which was a 2/2 that whenever it dealt damage, drew a card, was a really solid pickup in limited. Toski is that plus, because it can't be countered and it's indestructible. And it's every creature draws cards, not just Toski. So I think in limited, this little guy's a bomb, no question about it. And I think it is going to see some constructed play coming out of the sideboard to deal with control decks. And possibly main deck as a draw engine in like aggressive elf ball style strategies, where the goal is to just create as many little creatures as you possibly can and just punch with all of them a lot. I think we're going to see this little guy see some play, or at least I really hope so, because he's the first legendary squirrel we've seen, and, well, I'm a fan. All right, everybody, thank you so much for hanging out. This has been a lot of fun. My name's been Graham, also known as HamHawks42 on the internet. You can catch me on Twitch, twitch.tv/HamHawks42. If you enjoyed this podcast, please give it 5 stars in your podcast app of choice. And if you're watching on YouTube, please don't hesitate to give it a little thumbs up, and go ahead and subscribe to the channel while you're down there. It means the world. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. I'll catch you next time. And don't forget, you are a good person, and you deserve to be happy.